Hi, my name is Hayes and today I wanted to share my reading, journaling, tracking setup system. I guess I'm not really sure what to call it exactly, and I use three things primarily. So this notebook, this small one, and my phone. But first I need to show you what I was doing last year, which basically made me decide on this kind of setup this year. So last year I used this journal, which is the Hobonichi Cousin A5, as well as my phone. And on my phone, how I track my reading is on the app Storygraph. I know a lot of people like Goodreads. Honestly, I'm not that big of a Goodreads person. Just personal preference. I don't know anything wrong with it. It's just not for me. So I use Storygraph at the minute. You can see I'm reading Jane Eyre. So if you're unfamiliar, here you basically write down what page you're on. I actually finished it on page 222 last night, so I'll put that there. It's actually the wrong edition of Jane Eyre. The one I have has less pages in. But I don't mind, I couldn't find the one I'm reading. So it does have recommendations and other popular books. I personally don't use this. If what I'm reading just happens to be on the popular books, then so be it. I don't consciously read it. There are also challenges and stuff. Other than a reading goal, which for me is 60 books this year, I don't particularly use them. So last year I had a goal of 52 books, so I was like 52 weeks, 52 books, 1 book a week. I absolutely smashed it last year. I think I read like 71, 72 books, so I've upped it to 60 books this year, although I want to read longer books this year, so I feel like 60 books is better. I'm not sure if I'll meet as many books as I did last year, but I'll be very happy with 60 books. Then of course on here I have all my reading stats. So again, I've read 23 books so far this year. It's the end of March when I'm recording this. And in total 8,000 pages. It takes me 4 days on average to finish a book. And you can see all my different kind of moods I tend to read, the kind of pacing of book. I pretty much always go for medium paced books, and I generally stick around 300 to 500 pages, and I pretty much purely read fiction. I'm not a big non-fiction person. And then we have romance as my top genre, followed by young adult, which isn't a genre, but okay. And then most of what I read is in print. I don't read loads on my Kindle. And my most read authors are I.A. Dice and Meg Cabot, because I'm in the middle of reading The Princess Diaries, the whole series, as well as the Shadows of Obsession series, but there's only like 5 in that. So Meg Cabot with 10 is absolutely going to win this year. Everything I read is in English, and as you can see, this is the chart so far. Obviously most of it's at 0 because this is in March. But at the top there we have the red marker is the amount of pages read, and the blue marker is the amount of books read each month. So it's usually about roughly the same each month. And then my average star rating is 3.48, which is higher than last year, which was like 2 point something. I am very, very picky when it comes to books. I love tracking my reading on this. It's great. It also has a reading journal, which is really useful for one of the systems I'm going to show you in a minute. So when I properly started reading again at the start of 2024, I was using Storygraph all the time, and I'm still using it. The way I'm using it hasn't changed for 2025. However, this other bit was new for me. So this is the first year I've had like a full journal, and I really loved it. So this is the Hobonichi Cousin, which I put this one of the official covers on. It was just like this plain blue one with this pink on the inside, and I made all these tabs myself. And as you can see, let me try and find, oh, May was a bad month because last year I only read 1 book in May because I had my PhD Viva and I didn't have much time. Okay, so this is what I used to do. So here I'd have whatever day it was, I'd have my to-do list, I'd have like a little commentary about what I did in the day, how my day was, and then here, it was always in the exact same place, I would have a little commentary about what I thought of the book. So this was for More Than This by Patrick Ness, which I gave 3 stars out of 5, and I would just give it a review. I would talk about it. And I don't think there's anything wrong with this method. I really liked it at the time. However, I knew in 2025 I wasn't going to need this big of a Hobonichi because I really enjoyed using it, and I kind of do regret not getting a big one, but also at the same time I finished my PhD and I also got a full-time job, which I've been since made redundant from, but there just wasn't enough going on in my days that I wanted to write about. That would mean that I would need an A5 size planner. Again, like this year I got the A6, which is obviously much smaller and it's much more conducive to what I do. Like, I don't do as much in the day as I did last year because I still had studying to do, preparing for my PhD finishing. So I really like doing this, but because I knew I was going into 2025 with a smaller planner, I knew I needed a different reading system, which is what I came up with for 2025. So if you noticed in my A6 journal for 2025, I use a lot of the TheCoffeeMonsterzCo stickers. Helen, who runs it, founded it, CEO, whatever you want to call her, I think she's amazing. I love her so much. I religiously watch her videos. She's one of my favourite creators of all time. Don't let people like, oh, I have a favourite creator in this space and this space. I don't really do that. I just like, you're either my favourite creator or you're not, and she is one of my favourites. And she was the reason I got my first Hobonichi cousin last year, and she'd mentioned last year when I was watching her videos about using the Hobonichi Weeks, which is this slimmer version of the planner. And she was like, I like them, but I have no use for them. And I was like, same, Helen. However, for 2025, she started using it to track her fitness. So she was like, I'm going into it using it for a specific purpose. Previously, when she'd use one, she'd used it for personal reasons, but she didn't have that much of a personal life. Helen's a bit of a workaholic, so she didn't really have that much of a personal life. So she was using it primarily for fitness. And I was like, that's a great idea. However, I don't really care that much about fitness, so I got it specifically for reading. So I just hold it up. This is like the yearly section, the year at a glance. Again, like it's meant to be a diary. I don't use it for that other than I guess like a reading diary. So at the top here in these boxes, I'm keeping a track of the names of the books I'm reading because I've read so many each month, they are overlapping, and I'm currently in the April box. And then down in each little space for the dates, I am tracking how many pages I read that day. As you can see, the other Tuesday I read nearly 400 pages because that was the day the new Hunger Games came out, and that's all I did that day. Some days I read a lot, some days I don't. For example, the other Tuesday I only read 7 pages. So I just keep a track here of how much I read. But then we go to the monthly section. I need to update this for March, where I basically highlight how long it takes me to read a book. So for example, in February, from the 1st to the 3rd, I read The Warriors by Sol Ulrich, and then I read Mary or the Birth of Frankenstein from the 4th till halfway on the 8th, and then I started Fourth Wing, which I finished on the 11th, and so on and so forth. So I did it in January, and I also, I did it in December. The Hobonichi Weeks actually gives you an extra month, so I started this journal in December, and I've been really, really enjoying it. However, for the weekly section, this is what the weekly spread looks like. I'll flip to last week so you can see what it's really like. There are spoilers for all of the books in here, so don't read it too much. But basically, what I do is I write down the title of the book, and I use a TheCoffeeMonsterzCo sticker to indicate what kind of book it is. So Sunrise on the Reaping, I feel like a lot of people class it as fantasy. To me, The Hunger Games is dystopia, so it's science fiction. A lot of people may disagree with that, but that's fine. I actually wrote this one wrong. It should be Take Two, not It Takes Two. It's a second Princess Diaries book. I really enjoyed it, and then I have Jane Eyre, but don't look at that one too much because I wrote it really badly. I use a different kind of pen. But that's basically how I do it. If I don't have time to read, I'll write it there, but basically this side of the page is for the morning and this side is for the afternoon and the evening. So if I don't read in the morning, like I didn't here, I just put no time to read. That's the way it is. Down here, using whatever colour matches the title I picked, which I usually pick based on the cover of the book, what colour it is, I will mark in how long it takes me to read, and I'll just put at the top what page I started on that morning or that afternoon and what page I finished on when I finished my reading session. And within each section I will talk about how I'm currently feeling about the book. Often how I feel about the book will sometimes change. Sometimes I will start a book and I will really be loving it. For example, last year I read this book called The Rivers of London. I loved the first half of it. I thought it was amazing. The second half was terrible. And I was like, no, this was bad. Really didn't like it. So basically this tracks how I get on with books as I go through and read them, and I'm really enjoying it. So the way I set it up, as you can see in this week, it's only Tuesday and I haven't read anything yet, is basically if you look on this one, there are no real lines. Is a grid, but it's not very opaque, so I take a pencil and a ruler and I just draw the line properly in so it matches. So this is the morning and then the afternoon, and then at the bottom I draw a little graph which shows how many pages I read that day. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, then 0, 100, 200, 300, 400. Some books I read are longer than 400 pages, although that is my average kind of reading. If they are longer, then I'll just go up to 400 and then start from the bottom, like adding it up. So I use this every day and I love it. So the last journal in my reading tracking lineup is this journal, and it is originally from Kuma Stationery Craft. It's a really nice notebook. Doesn't come with this cat scratch on the front. That was my cat. Literally only did it a couple of days ago. I've had this journal since like February, only really started using it in August, and I'm really enjoying using it. I'm basically, I would say, taking a lot of inspiration from Erin Smith. I will link her channel and the TheCoffeeMonsterzCo channel below, but that's basically where I've got the inspiration for this one from Erin Smith. She keeps a reading journal. I hear like a lot of online discourse about people who don't like reading journals because it's just an excuse to make it look pretty and the thoughts inside them are really vapid as a result, which I completely disagree with. I think things can be pretty and hold, you know, emotional weight and intelligence. Just because something's pretty doesn't mean it's stupid. And my reading journal is nowhere near as pretty, by the way. I'm setting myself up for massive letdown. My reading journal is nowhere near as pretty as, for example, Erin Smith's or anyone else's you see online, but I really like it. However, I obviously only use this once I'm finished with the book. I use my Hobonichi weeks to track how I'm getting on with the book, what I'm currently feeling, but this reading journal from Kuma is only really like the end review when I'm done with the book, if you will. So I started using this in August. I'm about halfway through, and perhaps this would annoy people. It has this star and moon pattern. It's really pretty, but because I stick things in it, this first half has all interrupted the pattern. So perhaps that would annoy you, but personally it doesn't annoy me. I don't really care. So let me just cover this up. This is like my title page. So I started it in August, and I will put whenever I finish it on here, and I'm covering this up here because I have a quote from one of my favourite books, which is Joan by Catherine J. Chen. It's like a historical fiction book about Joan of Arc. However, it's the last line of the book, so I don't want to spoil it for you. So I'm just covering it with my hand for now, but a lot of these stickers are from Catnip, which is a small stationery business in the north of England where I am from. And then the next page is like all the books read. So this is only tracked since August, so the first book I read in August was The Bees by Lillian Paul. And this is basically everything since then, and it's like a saddle style thing. So I actually am missing a couple of books here. That was Not for the Faint of Heart by Lex Cratchit, but I gave 3.5 stars. It was fun. It was about Robin Hood's granddaughter. It was great. So that's how I track things. I know a lot of people have other trackers in, like a series tracker, books that are coming out, the TBR list. I don't really do that. I'm just like, my TBR list is me going to my bookcase and deciding what I want to read next. I don't keep it as a written list. I just go and stare at my bookcase and decide. So I don't do that. However, at the start of each month, what I do is I have this little piece of Hello Kitty paper that one of my friends got me from Japan. So at the end of the month I fill it in with the books completed. So last August I read 8 books, the amount of pages read, which was 2,570. I did put words read, and I was like, realised after I wrote it, Storograph doesn't track that, you silly person. Then I have the average rating. I had a really good month in August. I read some really good books, so I had an average rating of 4.06 stars. Don't usually rate books that highly. I am very picky. And then my favourite book from last August was The Tear Smith by Erin Doom. So basically what I usually do is I draw the book cover. So this is what the copy of The Bees that I have looks like. I write the title, write who it's by, and then what I gave it, which for me was 5 stars. I do a bit of decoration that I feel is in line with the book. So I have this bee washi tape, some hexagonal shapes for a beehive, this yellow piece of scrap paper, and I write a review of what I did and did not like. Obviously for The Bees, I give it 5 stars. I liked it a lot. However, I've been doing this since August. Now it is nearly the end of March, and I have changed some things, and I just wanted to be, I guess, a bit more artistic with it, and I've taken it in a bit of a different direction. So the first book I read in January was Winterkeep by Kristen Cashaw, and I've tried to go away from drawing the book covers and drawing images that represent part of the book. So for example, in Winterkeep there's a blue fox, so I drew a blue fox. I also read The Man in the High Castle, so I drew some Edelweiss, is that how you pronounce it? A Natural History of Dragons, which I actually hated. I drew a dragon for, of course, stuff like that. The Princess Diaries, I tried to emulate the font that's in the front, stuff like that. Saving Haley, I really like this book, but it was really difficult to draw stuff from because it was just difficult. If you've read it, you'll know. I also didn't have that much to say about this one, hence the massive blue stripes. And then also, it's probably one of my favourite pages, I also recently read The Magician's Nephew, the first in the Narnia series of books, and I was just like, you know what, I'll just draw the whole cover, and it took up loads of the page, but I'm really proud of how it came out. Really happy with it. So basically I only use this notebook when I'm finished with the book. I'm a little bit behind. I think I read 4 books since this one. I think since this one I've read Not for the Faint of Heart by Lex Croucher, Sunrise on the Reaping by Susan Collins, of course, Take Two by Meg Cabot, the second Princess Diaries book, and I am like halfway through Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte. So as you can see, I also like to read a random collection, like different types of books. I was in Chester this last weekend and I got stopped by a lady in the sci-fi and fantasy section who asked me for book recommendations in the Waterstones. And I was a bit confused because you can just ask, you know, the staff, the booksellers for recommendations. They all read. That's like part of the reason they get hired, because they read so much. But I was like, sure, of course, I'll give you some recommendations. So I read pretty much every genre. The only thing I'm not so hot on is non-fiction. I'm not a big non-fiction person. It has to be a subject I'm either really eager to learn more about or already have an interest in. For example, I love Joan of Arc. I would read non-fiction books about her. But honestly, I'm not really a memoir person, even if I really like the celebrity or the historical figure, whoever they are. Yeah, no. So I am very, very picky when it comes to non-fiction, but when it comes to fiction, I will pretty much read anything apart from vampires and werewolves, because Twilight has scarred me for life, and I'm hoping one day I will get over that. But currently it's not happened. So I do really like this notebook from Kuma Stationery. I'll see how it holds up. Like I said, I'm only like halfway through it. We'll see if the signatures will hold up all the way through the book, but I don't know yet. But I am really enjoying using it. The paper's really nice to draw on as well, since I'm doing that more in this notebook, but I'm really enjoying tracking my reading in here. But I'm definitely up for giving another reading journal a go once I have filled up and finished this one. So that is how I've been tracking my reading since December. I haven't really changed it. I love it so much. I really like it. However, I'm always eager to hear what other people do to track their reading. Because basically how I've come up with this tracking system is by stealing things off other people and merging them together. Like Storygraph, I'm pretty sure I heard someone on TikTok talk about, but I can't remember who they were. The Hobonichi Weeks is from Helen from TheCoffeeMonsterzCo, and my reading journal is from Erin Smith's channel. So I'm eager to know what the rest of you track your reading with, so I can maybe steal your ideas as well. But it's totally fine if you want to steal mine, because that's what I think it's all about. So I'd love to know how you all track your reading and if you think of any improvements to mine, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!